Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna do a continuation of my most recent video, but it is going to be titled a little different. And this is specifically the non-negotiables for me when it comes to planning or journaling. So if you don't know, I actually posted a video a couple of weeks ago talking about how I plan to choose my notebooks and my journal for next year. This is specifically because I have noticed that there are times when I've bought into something, used it, and figured out that it's not working for me. So I'm waiting for a couple more weeks before I start placing orders in planner stores and figuring out what I actually need. Yeah, so do check that video out. I will link it up in the cards above. But today we're going to speak about my planning and journaling non-negotiables. So I have with me my Hobonichi Cousin notebook, which is what I'm using this year for planning and journaling as well, I would say. But I'm not much of a journaler. This is mostly meant for me to plan. And I have not been using this consistently, meaning every single day, but I will continue to use it next year. But I do want to talk about what I intend to do. What are the planning non-negotiables for me? And this is just like a reminder for myself when I'm, looking at products that really call out to me, but I know for a fact that it's not going to work for me because I know that I've tried it in the past and I've not liked it. So in order for me to not try them again several times and end up not using it, I have this, this is actually a supplement book that you get in the Hobonichi store. It's an A5 supplement. This notebook cover is specifically the one for the Mother series. So I have these supplements with me that I use for, appending it to my current cousin setup. And what I do with this is I usually take this and move forward. I can just transfer this into new planners as and when I'm using them. So this is basically a brain dump ideation notebook that I have where I'm just like writing down things that I know I want to collect over the years and the things that I will continue to keep collecting and are of importance to me for every single year. So this is kind of like a book that just keeps transferring year on year. And I've just made an index and I just keep writing stuff that are important to me and things that I want to see. So in this notebook, I have this planning non-negotiables that I've created. And it is basically the things that, I have tried out in the previous years that I just know has not worked for me, and the things that I want to avoid when, placing orders, so that I'm constantly reminded, hey, you have tried this and you have hated it or you have not liked it. So it's just like a reminder to me. But these are basically my planning and journaling non-negotiables, I would say. And some of the things that, I kind of want to talk about is, how I've tried certain things over the years and how I've just completely avoided it. And it's just a reminder for me every year when I'm making stationery purchases, because I do put a lot of budget into this hobby because it is probably only one of the couple hobbies that I do pay interest to. So I just want to make sure that I'm buying something that I know I want to try that I haven't tried before, not something that I've tried and I've really not liked it. So that's just the whole idea behind it. So let's get into it. This is basically a book for me. So the language I've used is not that great. I have written in the book in the same way that I would have, future Sumi would have spoken to the current Sumi when she's trying to place an order. So there will be a lot of swearing, and I'm sorry, I'll try to, censor all of those out if there is anything of that sort. So the first one is, it just says, listen, the vertical weekly for planning not gonna work unless you are tracking each hour in your paper planner. And this is an important thing for me. So if you're not aware, generally notebooks and journals have, like the ones at least which are dated, usually have like a weekly tracking system. Not every single notebook or journal or planner may have it, but like the Hobonichi Cousin has this. This is a vertical weekly, meaning that every section that you see, it's a column, but you will also see, like, the hours are mentioned here. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way down to 4 a.m. again. So this is military time, so you're gonna have to do the calculation in your head. But for me, planning on this does not work, because every time I look at this, my mind is constantly going to, oh, this is a schedule. This is like a hour by hour schedule that I need to follow. I can make to-do lists on this, but for some reason, when I see these numbers, my brain just goes that way. And I just simply cannot plan in this kind of layout. So what I've been doing right now is I'm just using this to track, the manga that I read, and just things that I just want to remember, or things that I just feel like might be of importance to me when I'm reading something. I just want to remember something. So this is not working. A vertical weekly does not work for me from a planning perspective. That's the first non-negotiable when it comes to planning for me. And we're gonna move on to the second one, which is trifles. Way too large, not enough space on the table. And this is important because I absolutely adore a trifold cover that I have. I have the Going Merry A5, and while I absolutely love it, I cannot for the life of me have it work in a way that, it just doesn't work for me, because it's just way too big on the table. So I really have just this much space to actually just, I would say not even this much space. I would just say, like, this is the amount of space that I have on the table until, my laptop and my monitor starts taking so much space already. So the trifold does not work for me unless I have like a dedicated table just to handle the trifold. And I don't want to invest in something like that. So it's been difficult. While I love the Going Merry planner so much, it's one of the most ingenious things that Hobonichi has ever brought out, and they are bringing out the 1000 Sunny version this year. It's just that I cannot for the life of me make it work, and if it doesn't work, that's just how it is. So trifolds, at the point that I'm in my life right now, it's just not working for me. So that's also a non-negotiable. The third one, a very big non-negotiable, is it has to lay flat, cannot deal with anything else. And this is particularly important because I have tried using covers and planners that don't lay flat. Case in point, the Traveler's Notebook cover and the inserts, I just cannot deal with it. So that's the other one. The fourth one is, this is another one that I just want to talk about. I just don't like the zip covers. This is literally what I wrote. Something about it just doesn't sit right with me. It has the combination of not being able to lay flat and the zipper hitting my wrist probably. So while I have not, bought a zip cover specifically meant for a planner, I do have a zip cover, which is actually a passport case, which can hold a Hobonichi Weeks. And let me just get that and I will show you what I mean. So I have this Aspinall of London passport cover. It's not meant to be like a dedicated cover for like a Hobonichi Weeks or something like that, but this actually fits a Hobonichi Weeks pretty comfortably with room to spare. So I would say that this is something that is essentially good enough like a reference for the standard zip covers. Now, I have this Inuyasha Weeks. This is my 7-year journal. I'm just gonna try and show you what I mean. Now, if I were to use this cover, I would just slide this last, the back of the spine, back of the page down here. And I would probably use this pen loop to hold my actual pen. And while this is the setup that, works, in order for me to have this functional, I really, first of all, there are two things. Like, this does not lay flat, okay? So this situation does not lay flat. Even if I try to move this like that, it does not lay flat. So that itself is is like a non-negotiable for me. And the fact that, even if I somehow manage to get it to lay flat, the fact that I have to write on the cover with the zipper down here, it just gives me like a weird texture. I don't like to have a whole lot of obstruction when I'm writing because it's just like a sensory thing, I believe. And the very reason of it having the zips, dig into my hand, it's gonna, really drive me insane. So while this looks like a great setup, and I actually used this when I was traveling, I did use a zip cover to actually hold my passport and my Hobonichi weeks, because it's a pretty nifty system if you think about it, and it zips up really well. As long as you're not like making it extremely thick with stickers, this is actually a system that would work really well for somebody. But I don't like the zip covers. So while I might use that as my general passport cover, getting a zip cover specifically for any of my Hobonichi or any other planner notebooks is just not going to work, because I really love some of the zip covers that Hobonichi has released this year, and even the ones from the previous years. But this is just like a reminder for me that I'm just going to get completely frustrated with the zipper digging into my hand, and also the fact that it does not lay flat, basically. So that's number 4. The 5th one is the ink needs to dry immediately or in a few seconds, which is one of the reasons why I'm trying to stay away from fountain pens and certain pens that, just don't like dry immediately. This probably would be like a Tomoe River problem, or like a problem with some other type of specific papers. But it's just, which is one of the reasons why my favorite is the Sakura Micron Pigma. I absolutely love this pen. I have like backups of this. I also love the Friction pen that you see here. This is also pretty cool. The Tombow Fudonosuke is also another one of my favorite pens. So they all just sit right here because they're like my backups of my backups. So yeah. So that was that. The next non-negotiable being no Sunday starts. I cannot deal with Sunday starts. I need to have my weekends together, and it just throws me off my total game if I have something like a Sunday start, when having my weekend stacked together is like just the way I think, because it's easier for me. That's how I work. I don't want like a Sunday and a Saturday. Which is one of the reasons I like stick to Hobonichi and other brands that do produce Monday starts. Okay, the next one. No dot grids, blank or ruled pages, please. So I'm not a dot grid person. I don't like blank pages, and I don't like ruled pages. It's just the way it is. I really need to have grids. I don't like the dot grids, which is one of the reasons I just completely stay away from the bullet journaling system. It just does not work for me. Now this one is not a big one, but it's just, something to remember, that I'm not a big fan of the butterfly covers. So the butterfly cover is basically, the standard Hobonichi covers. I don't know. It's again like a visual sensory thing. I don't like it when there are things jutting out of the planner cover, I think. They have to be able to close completely, or just not have this cover, this snap at all. I think that's what's throwing me off. But it's not like a complete non-negotiable, but something to think about, because when you are spending money on things that you want to buy for your hobby, you also have to remember that the things that you have tried before which you don't like, if you're going to buy it again, is gonna have to be like something that you just haven't tried. That's just how I deal with it. So it's just a reminder for me that I'm not a big fan. So the next time you find something which looks really cool, think twice before placing that order. That's basically it. Okay, the other one, another visual sensory thing, can't deal with repeating patterns. And I also go on to say, not plaid, mind you, those bow and tie and florals that keep repeating. So, you know how, like in the bow and tie series, you would have one particular illustration and that just gets repeated all throughout the planner cover. I'm not a very big fan of that. I feel like for some reason I don't resonate with those kinds, especially the ones with just has one illustration and it just keeps on repeating. I'm also not a big fan of, the Liberty Fabrics ones, they're filled with flowers and patterns, which I kind of tend to stay away from because it's too much visual stimulation for me. So that's just one thing that I don't like personally. All right, so the next one that says is I don't want to use Tomoe River paper for meeting notes. And I talked about this a little bit in my previous video, but for anything that, I have to take my, if I need to take meeting notes, I just don't want to do it on Tomoe River paper. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe a personal thing. I just don't want to use Tomoe River paper for meeting notes. The next one that says, A6 is the last resort for planning size. So this one is interesting. And I would also probably go on to add journaling as well. So I'm not an A6 person. I have tried using the A6. For some reason, when I see that size, it just feels like it isn't enough for me to handle. It isn't enough for me to work with. So I just try to stay away from using A6 as like a planner or a journal kind of a thing. I could use it for tracking really, really very little information. But I think the thing is, if I'm spending a lot of time writing, I don't want my hands to fall off the edge. I think that's one of the reasons why I do not like the A6 for planning/journaling, because I would spend a lot of time, at least 20 minutes, to do something in the notebook. And if I'm spending that much time, I don't like the feeling of, having not enough space to write, or I'm constantly my hands are literally falling off the books. That's something that I just don't feel like works for me. So this is specifically as it relates to planning and journaling size. I do like the A6 size, but not for, these kind of things. All right, so the next one is not a memory keeper. This is me literally screaming at me, future me screaming at me. So I'm gonna read what I've written. It says, not a memory keeper, so let's stop collecting random stuff to place them and stick them in your journal. I know you'd rather draw or copy text that you found interesting, so stick to that. So yeah, so this one is interesting because I started off my journaling, whole journey with the idea of scrapbooking and basically collecting things from, magazines or things that I've gone out. I would collect receipts, stuff like that, to paste it in my journal. And I found that whole process extremely taxing, both on my mental health and also, being able to, I think a lot of things stems from me not wanting to store them because I don't have enough space to do that. So I just don't like scrapbooking, even, printing out photos. I'm not a person who does that. So I just try to, remind myself whenever I can that just don't do it, because it will just end up making you really frustrated. So why go there is basically what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. So the next one that says, no pebbled leather. I hate it. We hate it. Smooth or veiny only. Croc is okay if it's very specific croc. Okay. So this is interesting. It's been a while since I've read this, so it's interesting to read, how I'm trying to, tell me again that this just does not work. So I'm not a pebbled leather kind of a person. So if you talk about leather, I do love leather covers, but if I am trying to purchase leather covers, it's a big investment, right? I don't want to spend money on something which is just going to be very pebbly. I would rather spend that money on something which would be smooth leather or smooth with veiny texture. I don't mind the croc. This is also a croc printed leather. It's not an actual croc leather. It's like regular, I believe it's, this cover is from VDS. So this is a black croc leather, a printed leather. So I'm okay with this. I do like this kind of leather, but the ones which have like that uniform pattern of having like pebbles on them, I think you might understand what I'm trying to say. If you know of, Moterm, they are pretty popular in having that pebbly leather. And a lot of, luxury brands also have that kind of leather. Now this is my Giglio, which is an A5 Campagna. It's the A5 ring size. Now, if you look at this leather, it's not fully pebbly. It's got a little bit of veins on it, and it just ends up being a lot more smoother than, the pebbly texture. Same goes for like, if you look at it inside here, you can actually see the veins here. I like this kind of texture. This is very nice. But the ones which have like very prominent uniform pebbly leather throughout, that is something that I personally do not like. And if I'm spending that much money on leather items, I want to get something that I would, use and would be happy to use. So that's just another thing that I really kind of, stray away from if I'm placing an order. So this is the other one. And the last one that I've just mentioned is, well, I think I've written a specific one for scrapbooking. It says scrapbooking with a question mark. No. You got really frustrated finding things, cutting them, and figuring out where to keep it before pasting it. Doesn't work. Don't attempt again. So I talked about this, when I was talking about the memory keeping. So this is just, a reminder to me that it just doesn't work. And I should probably just hold off on the idea altogether if I'm, thinking about cutting things and pasting them, because I get really frustrated when I don't have the space to do it. I don't have the space to store it, and it just ends up being very taxing on me. So that concludes my planning and journaling non-negotiables. Let me know if you have any planner or journal non-negotiables, especially when it comes to stationery as well. I think this is an interesting exercise that you can do, when these kind of planner seasons come around, so that you are constantly reminded that you know what works and doesn't work for you, so that you make sure that you don't end up getting into something that you will eventually possibly tend to hate. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.